Hi, it's such a pleasure to have both of you here today. So we have this entire podcast which we call Financially Speaking, Conversations About Money. So that's how we kind of launched this podcast. This is just our second episode. Absolute great way to start this episode with these two wonderful women that you are. So before we start, let me take a minute to introduce both of you and to the people who are going to be listening into this podcast. So we have today on our show two extremely successful and independent women professionals, people who've carved their own careers. Both of them have two things in common. Both are from Delhi, moved and found their careers in Mumbai. And yes, so for the listeners, without any much ado, reveal the suspense. So we have today Oscar-winning producer Guneet Monga and the immensely talented and versatile actor Sanya Malhotra. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Vishakha ji, for a lovely, lovely introduction.
Thank you for being here with us. Thank you so much for being here. So as I said, finance is really huge. When you talk about awareness of finance, there are lots of aspects in finance. So I don't want to get into the technical aspects at all, okay? Because what I do want to talk about is money at the end of the day is very important, right? I mean, if you go back, people would always say health and wealth.
Right.
Everything, when you talk about long life, it will be a healthy and wealthy life. So wealth has always been a very standard part of any wishes that come in. So for me, being financially secure meant I didn't have to get married. It meant marriage could be an option and I could choose to get married. So that was what it meant. So what does financial security mean for you, Sanya?
I think for me it's feeling of like that peace of mind that I get that my income is enough to cover my shopping bills. I'm kidding, not just the shopping bills but all my expenses, It's just about the peace of mind that I get right now because when I moved to Bombay, I was completely dependent on my father. I was not able to do a lot of things that I wanted to because obviously that dependency on him, I used to feel really this thing about it ki kaise mangu paise, every month he can't keep sending me money, and I was struggling to find work in Bombay. But now that I'm financially secure, I know that I can cover a lot of expenses, also help my father and my mother, my whole family in that aspect. So that is that peace of mind that I get from earning my own money and finances.
That's lovely. I agree completely with that. Peace of mind is something that we advocate in terms of planning finances.
Right.
Guneet, when we first met, what I was really struck by was your story. And the takeaway that I had at that time is that she is able to really scrape every penny she has and put it into a movie. So, and I actually wondered, isn't she scared about not having money? I'd be keen to know what is financial security to you.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I come from a very, very humble family. We don't have the traditional security like ghar, house, just that it doesn't exist in my life. And I lost my parents very early, and being the only child, there was nothing. I mean, they also did not, actually my parents didn't have any life insurance, not medical insurances. So we were just really there is still a lot of middle class people just trying to live day to day, and not think about financial management or financial planning. And here I was as a 24-year-old and I felt extremely unprotected. And also in life, I had no choice than to just work. Came to Bombay. I wanted to make movies. Of course, I used to stay with 5 other women in, a 2-bedroom apartment and be able to pay 3,000, 5,000 a month and literally just negotiate that, between 5 friends. So life has started from that. For me, financial independence really means that I don't have to look for a job and I can continue running my company and live on my own terms. So that is just hugely empowering. And the last decade and a half, I sometimes wake up and pinch myself for the life and the team we've managed to put together. I have a lot of those moments where I'm so grateful that I was able to make it work, but there are odds stacked against us all the time and starting from scratch. So proud to be self-made and constantly learning more about money management. Very curious.
Yeah, I mean, being who you are, raising money and putting it together and then ensuring that money actually delivers the right return for you. So how do you calculate return of investment in a movie?
Yeah, so it's very interesting, At a surface level, there is a formula. There is a formula basis on previous track records of the components of the movie, like actors, like director, storyline, You know, so when you're sitting in finance meetings, they're always like, everybody is always trying to put a story in a box. This is like this. Usne aisa kamaya tha. You know, so you're trying to make a standard business plan, a low, medium, high scenario, that if you make it very nice, if you make it, in midst of all this surface level work, in midst of all this surface level work, there is a story, you know, and there is a heart in the story. And at the end of the day, it is filmmaking, you know. So, and I've been in the room with all of you pitching Pagglait, pitching our story. This story has always lit up my eyes, and, you know, my heart starts beating like, this is what I want to do. It's like the calling of life, you know. So that draw is bigger than any financial plan, and that's when your passion meets with a business plan. So yes, there was always a business plan, raised money as per that business plan. You have syndication rights. You break down your movie into TV rights, digital rights, music, theatrical rights, marketing money. So you make a revenue stream like this, and you say, okay, I will at least break even, plus the interest, plus profit share for any investment to work, given all the costs on one side. It has been an interesting journey on Pagglait, because most of the films that I've been part of, it starts with investors really leaning in and judging it, because they can't usually find an example, what to plug it like, you know, and how to package this. At the end of the day, I think the craft of storytelling weaved in with business sense has really given us results. And the fact that I'm able to run my company and the team, and we are inspired to show up every day, is because it just has worked because of the stories.
So, you know, your answer was so interesting. It reflected very clearly your passion in films. And to my financial mind, I actually didn't hear an answer, because what I was expecting as an answer, and that's how typically we all end up thinking about money, is return kitna banega, you know. So when you put money, what's the return? And that's what people end up focusing on. What I heard you say was really not about return as much as about the product itself. So if you were making a decision, Sanya, you know, and you said, okay, I want to invest some money for myself, how would you make that decision between risk and return?
You know, with investments and with my finances, I can't take the credit. Totally trust my father when it comes to investing the money. I'm also still getting educated about where my money is, where he is investing. It's there in stocks, in property, and we sit together and plan it out also. Maybe next year we should invest the money in some commercial property. And I've never used to think like that. In fact, as Guneet said that she doesn't want to buy a house, you know, even I didn't. I was happy living in a rented house in Bombay, but my father, why I trust him so much, because growing up I've seen that. I remember when I was in 8th or 7th standard, he lost his job, and for good 1 year he didn't have a job. A sole earner, but we were all surviving on his savings, you know. And he's really good at planning. He just knows where to put the money and how we'll get the return back, you know. And I totally trust him with that. I told you earlier that I'm maybe not the right candidate for it, but because I'm still learning, you know. Even this conversation, sitting with you guys, it's a learning for me. And now recently I've started talking about investments with my friends, where they're investing their money, and I'm kind of like getting more knowledge about it. As I said, I'm still like, with planning aspect, I'm still dependent on my father majorly.
No, that's absolutely great, you know, because we all have to start with somebody telling us about it. And, you know, whether we like it or not, there are a lot of smooth talkers out there.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching a movie the other day which says I Care a Lot. I don't know if you guys have seen it. And it is where there's an entire scheme where the government is supposed to look after old people who can't look after themselves and appoint caretakers. And that's become an entire scam where those caretakers actually take over all the rich.
Yes, it's on Netflix. It's
all the rich old women and stuff like that. So that's just a point I was trying to make, to say, yes, there are scamsters all over, right? So when you're starting, you have to start with someone you trust. The question that I wanted to ask you, and you're not the bad candidate at all. In fact, you're the most ideal candidate for all millennials who are going to look up and say, okay, what's Sanya going to answer to this question now? And my question is, do you think that being a woman, it makes it difficult for you to understand finances?
Yes, partly yes, because we live in a patriarchal society. You know, growing up I've heard that women are not good with money. Even with my mother, I remember mama मांगती थी पैसे कभी पापा से कि इतने नहीं इतने दो, इतने ही ठीक है तुम्हारे लिए. वैसा सुनने को मिलता था. So maybe it is one of the reasons where I'm not, it might be one of the reasons that I'm not like to, I was never so keen about learning how to invest my money. But now I am. Now I'm making money and I really want to know where my money is going exactly. So I'm still getting educated about it. And it's with so many women in the society, in our society, where उनको नहीं लगता कि they will never be able to understand. Like with stocks, I used to keep telling my father, I can never understand this world of stocks. I just don't get it. ये ऊपर जा रहा है, नीचे जा रहा है. I don't get it. I know for a fact कि थोड़ा time निकालूंगी तो सीख भी जाऊंगी.
Funny incident with money, somewhere where money made you...
Oh, so last year, 2019. So when I was a kid, we used to live in Japan. Good 1 or 2 years we stayed there. My father used to work in Japan. So I took my parents, my whole family to Japan for a vacation. So at the airport, we booked a cab. And the bill came out for like cab from the airport to the hotel. 20,000 ka charges for the cab, and I was shocked. मैंने कहा, is it? Papa, Japan is quite expensive. I said, yeah, बचपन से बेटा. हमेशा से expensive था ये. मैंने कहा, पहले क्यों नहीं बताया when I was planning this trip? I could have taken you guys to somewhere else. The whole trip, I was just panicking. I was so anxious. I'm like, oh my God, we're spending a lot of money. Oh my God, I can't take cab. Oh my God, I can't shop. My father was like, it's okay, we're sorted. You do whatever you want to do. He was the one planning it up.
This whole currency conversion, right?
Yeah.
You go there and you travel and it's all the time you kind of doing this conversion in your head. Oh, for me, but India, you're talking conversion from rupees, right?
Yeah.
Into whatever foreign currency. I was in Delhi. I landed up there and I had to take a rickshaw to go to my in-laws' house. So we stay in Old Delhi. And I was born and brought up in Hyderabad, and while I have moved around, Hindi was not my mother tongue. So Hindi was more, I learnt it because my mother would say CBSE mein Hindi seekhna chahiye kind of a thing. Went to the rickshaw wala, he says, kitna? ₹1.25. So I told him, so I had been pre-warned कि ₹1.5 तक दे सकती हो. So I said, मैं ₹1.25 नहीं दूंगी, मैं ₹1.5 दूंगी. ₹1.5 में चलना है तो चलो. That
Date
guy.
is more than sawa.
Date is more than sawa. I had no idea. Date is 1.5 and sawa is 1.25. So so I get teased about it till today in terms of rickshaw wala ₹1.25 मांग रहा था and she wanted to give ₹1.5.
ये मैंने बहुत किया.
But because of lack of understanding of the language or out of generosity of heart?
मतलब 25 से आगे मुझे हिंदी में काउंटिंग नहीं आता. So I've done this a lot of times.
Yeah, I actually not really, because I, of course, again, coming from our backgrounds that we do, I've been at a place where family has said, अरे अब इसका क्या करे? You know, अब ये तो रह गई. You know, after I lost my parents and I didn't have siblings. I've heard things and I hope you guys watch Pagglait and relate to so many things. So I've heard people say कि अब ये तो हाथ से निकल गई, ये बॉम्बे जा रही है, हम इसको पैसे दे भी देंगे तो पता नहीं वापस नहीं कर पाएगी. You know, so why even get into that? And I'm hearing all this. You're not deaf and dumb. You're going through grief, but you hear a lot of stuff. And that's why Pagglait is so close to me as a movie. So, and I've seen the same people now cut out newspaper articles, tell other relatives that Guneet हमारी family में है. So, you know, this journey that I've had, I find it very funny. Like now it's humor. I find it very funny and I find it very endearing when I get those group messages. Because people can't, they still can't box me. They don't understand, you know, people don't understand what a producer does.
Very true.
You know, so what I exactly do, I have a, and there have been times when, you know, I've been very young in the business. And it's a question I have for you also, you know, being a woman in your business. I've been a very young woman in my business. So I've always been, like, I've always had people just assume ki matlab, I'm working alone, you know. So I've had to push people and say that please come to office. There are 35 million people working. So, you know, just I mean, that number is very low as per your office. But just where I am and where I was positioned as an independent young filmmaker, there is a lot of assumption. And, you know, you can see that people are assuming. You know, I would just get calls just saying, "Acha, haan, to yahan aaja, cafe mein mil lete hain." And I was like, nahi. Also, you know, so just pushing back in my little ways and little things.
Very true, very true.
And to explain what I do, I've had to so many times be in an uncomfortable space to explain what I do.
Right.
because producers are money people. They're like diamond merchants or construction people. Those are all financiers. A producer is somebody who identifies this art and puts the intention right through. And color of money is the same. Anybody gives that. So I've always had to push that. But how has been your journey as a woman, being a CEO in the world of banking, insurance?
I think one thing very, very early on is that you stop thinking of yourself as a woman.
Yeah.
At least when we were growing up, because we were such few of us, until people pointed it out, sometimes I wouldn't realize I'm the only woman in the group. People would walk in and say, oh my God, you were the only one. I remember a sales meet we had, and in which after that someone commented and said, that is the biggest orgy event I have seen with a woman in it. And I'm like, how do you have a sales meet with a woman? I'm like, kyun nahi ho sakta? Like, I didn't even understand why you couldn't do something because you're a woman. So I think that I owe a lot to my father for bringing me up without any
gender lens,
any gender bias.
Yeah.
So we never thought of yourself as a woman until people started pointing it out, and people would say something. Okay, so that's the way you think about it.
What did you do? What did you do with your first salary?
So my first salary was 60 rupees, and that was the amount we got paid as for internship in my CA. So when I started.
Which year was that?
84.
Articleship.
84 articleship. So the articleship you get. That's the right word actually.
I was born in November 83.
So we actually are 3 generations here, right? So I went and bought a sari for my grandmother and a dhoti for my grandfather.
Wow.
So I still remember that. And
Yeah.
so it was, it meant a lot to me.
I just want to say that really, thank you for supporting Pagglait, and we are really excited for you and your entire team to watch the film, because insurance is a plot twist
Right.
in our film.
So Guneet, when you came and narrated the story to me, what appealed to me was that I don't know about all of you, but I've been in insurance like 87, and I've been there.
Wow.
So 87 to be talking 2021 now, and I've 33 years. It's been only insurance for me. 89, not 87, but. Was it 87 or 89? Look at me, I'm forgetting. It's 87. I got married in 89, so I'm mixing up everything. So for me, the insurance is almost older than my marriage. So being associated with insurance, and we've seen a lot of claims. I've seen a lot of compromises that women end up making because their spouses did not take insurance. At the end of the day, the most vulnerable society is that of women. They give up everything in order to look after the family, in order to be there for the children, for the husband, to give them that whole support. And then when the husband does not take something as basic as a life insurance, they're left destitute. I mean, I've seen very young girls marry very old women just because they didn't have any other option in life. So I started off saying, for me, it was the freedom to marry if I want to, but
yeah, and also I think women and property, because then you still belong to your mother's house, or you still belong to your maternal house or your husband's house, and then uncertainty of life, and commitments, and that's the crux of our movie. And I think
absolutely,
Sandhya's
that's why
journey.
I loved it when you came and told me the story, and I said yes, I hope more people look at it and get inspired by the sea change in the way the girl gets treated, just because now she's got money.
Absolutely.
And she has money just because her husband had the sense to take a policy. So you're right, that's the pivotal factor in the movie, right?
Yeah.
And
relationships change, agendas change, everything, because money talks, right?
Yeah. So while you narrated it to me, when you narrated it to me, you told me it is more about dealing with grief. For me, it was like, dekha paise kya karta hai?
Yeah, that's true.
Look at the impact insurance has.
And we're so happy that we found you, because you totally got it. You and the team and Serena, everybody just got it, like the value of this. And we can't wait to share the movie.
Yes, totally excited about it. Thank you so much for being here, both of you. I really enjoyed this conversation. I loved the messages that you put out. I think, given the following that you have, I hope we have been able to make an impact with Financially Speaking and get more people to think seriously about money.
Prioritize it, yeah.
Money is, whether managing money is a life skill. I think it's as simple as that. People think it's only about managing health or learning how to cook was a life skill. I'm like, you know what?
Like you said.
Managing your money is a life skill. Thank you.
Thank
Any
you so
final words of advice that you want to leave behind to people who are listening in?
I think women make amazing homemakers, and I started by saying that. And I think women understand money it is just a taboo of not, and the fact of not prioritizing it. So it's time we prioritize it. We spend few hours a week knowing more, asking the right questions, processing the information, and each of us, I say this for myself also, watch Pagglait.
Watch Pagglait on 26th of March and get inspired to take policies.
Yeah, and
Secure a family and yourself.
yeah, and also, I think the journey of Sanya's character in Pagglait is Sandhya, and the journey of Sandhya and what she chooses when, it's coming of age.
Yeah.
So it says, you should only say, जब
लड़की लोग को अक्ल आती है, तो लोगों ने Pagglait ही कहता है.
So yeah, so it's time. So thank you.
Yeah, I loved what you did in that movie also. I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to see it. Thank you so much. Thank you for
so
being
much,
with us.
Vishakha ji.
Thank you.
Thanks a ton.